you're having a good day. And visiting the barber shop today is this ficus. It is time for a little haircut and some wire removal. Wire's been on there now for just short of 5 months, probably about 4.5 months or so. I do have several previous videos on this. I'll put the link in the description. I will add in just a few old pictures here. This was a really small ginseng ficus. I think about 2.5 years ago I got it. And once I realized that really wasn't much unique about it, and you'd never really make a good nabari out of the roots like this or whatever, I decided to put it over this rock. Had the rock and the tree in a training pot for a little while, and I guess about 8-9 months ago I put it in this pot here. And then it was that about 4 months ago that it had kind of recovered from the repotting, and I decided I'd go ahead and wire it up. I think it's looking pretty good, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. When I know I'm going to prune and defoliate the whole thing, first thing I do is kind of just go in and hedge prune everything. And then when I go to defoliate it, it's a little bit quicker. And making branch selection and things like that. So you might as well go ahead and just get rid of these longer ones first, longer branches or whatever first. And as I go here, try to get a good vision of what this thing may look like one day. I think it looks pretty good like that. I mean, when I cut it all the way back and it starts to kind of recover with smaller leaves and everything, should be a couple nice little levels in here. But now that I can see just a little bit better, I'm going to go ahead and take the wire off. Amazing how dense this foliage will get. Very jungle-like. But then, once I get in here and prune and defoliate, it really doesn't have much to it. Be kind of a spindly looking plant. But this is one of those trees that, when you do defoliate and prune it kind of doesn't look the best for a minute, but the canopy grows back relatively quickly. Well, this thing really does. This thing gets this little chunk of growth on it. And I've actually, when it came up before, it was actually coming out of the graft, or the grafting spots. Came out of a couple spots where the wire was cutting in a little bit. It's the only one of my ficus that gets that. I've never seen that on any other ficus but this one. And one last piece of wire here. Alright, still looking pretty good. I was kind of afraid that I was going to get into that jungle growth and find some hideous cutting in, but it actually looks pretty good. You guys probably saw as I was going, I knocked off a bunch of leaves, which already has enabled me to see a few more of these branches that have to go. That's a little spindly thing there that had that, actually had that burr on there. I'm going to take that off. Burl, I guess is what it's called, not a burr. Sometimes when I prune, I like to just kind of come with different techniques. Sometimes I like to work from the top down. Sometimes I work from the bottom up. Kind of going a little bottom up on this approach here. Just kind of what I had the best view of to start with. And we want ramification, and then every now and again this thing will give us, these trees will give us a spot or two with a really awkward amount of too much. Really busy out on the end of that one. That piece could be a little shorter for where it is. I think I'm going to experiment a little bit with putting some background music in here. Sometimes when I do this work, I just kind of edit out where it looks like nothing interesting is happening. But every now and again, either while I'm editing or even when I go back and rewatch something, I can hear myself breathing. And now I'm starting to get really self-conscious about it. I've even had a few of my students during a test the other day. I was standing too close to them, they could hear me breathing. Maybe it's just a symptom of getting old. I did smoke for 22 years, so sure that didn't help anything, but tell you what, if you are a smoker, I'm going to throw in a little PSA here. Best thing I ever did in my life was quit smoking. That was the worst thing ever. But yeah, I think that sometimes when I mute myself out, I'll put the background music in, but I might even just start experimenting a little bit with just some background music in the background just the whole time I'm working to kind of drown out my breathing when I'm not saying anything. Alright, we'll decide where this thing goes from there. I'm going to take a minute to think here on whether or not I may hold off on publishing this video until I start to see it green back up and then come back in and put some wire on it. I know for just today I don't want to put wire on it. I'm going to let it recover just a little bit first. But I was planning on letting it grow a little through the spring. A couple of my trees that I had just wired up pretty good over the winter. You can see here, I mean, when it is naked like this or whatever, I think in one of the videos I might even called it a old man tree because it looks a lot better with its clothes on. But you know, as far as like rules go, part of me wants to take off that just to, you know, because it's growing towards this piece here. But you know, now we're down to like 3 grafted pieces left. This actually may be a 4th one or part of that branch. It's kind of hard to tell. And I was trying to, you know, when it did have its clothes on there a minute ago with the leaves on it, you can see where it's just kind of growing over these roots. And since, you know, this is just kind of, you know, with the ginseng roots here or whatever, kind of an ugly situation going on anyhow, kind of wanted to just have it to where the canopy would come down like it was and kind of cover up part of that, but still enable you to see that it is over a rock. Alright, I am going to try to clean this rock up a bit. The interesting thing is that it's real kind of, like this side is actually kind of, you know, coming out from under the tree, if you will. And this is the one that, you know, looks all stained up. And then the other side actually looks pretty good. And it's actually kind of under it some. I do try to rotate it. Could be the way it's facing. Maybe this is the north side or whatever. But I do try to rotate it. I mean, this is kind of not a tree I pay that much attention to because it's pretty indestructible. So I don't have to, you know, kind of babysit this like some of the other ones I might have to. I've got the old toothbrush in water. But first thing I'm going to check, I got this new wire. It's a brass wheel or whatever for my Dremel. And I figure it's just supposed to be just like a brass wire brush. Or, you know, I mean, that's what it is. But on the Dremel instead, I'm just going to experiment. See if that'll help some before I hit it with the toothbrush. I do have my safety goggles on here. Let's see how this goes. Yeah, it definitely helped get a good start at it. Hard to get too close to the tree though. But I suppose that's going to be the same with the toothbrush here in a minute anyway. Should give me a good starting spot. See, it's getting a few aerial roots. Doesn't have the tight grip just because this was the, you know, earlier in the video I didn't explain that this is a, they call these ginsengs, but there's no such thing as a ginseng fig. This is it's a Ficus Microcarpa that they grow from seed. They let it get really fat. It's got the, you know, the big leaf, it's usually the big leaf variety. They take the big leaf variety off and then graft some pieces of smaller leaf varieties on the top. But since it, you know, it was already formed kind of like in a trident or whatever when I kind of just shoved that rock in there, never really had a chance to grip it like it should, but it's actually growing some in there. See, interesting how that turns out in the long run. Again, since this was just one of the Walmart specials and everything I made, since you know, it's just in this little, you guys can see the pot, little ceramic pot. Kind of cool looking, but it was a pot that I bought that had a defect or something. It was only like $5 or $10. I may experiment with this and like try to leave it in here for 5-10 years or something. It's because they can almost, I mean, the figs actually do grow ephytically down here. You'll see these growing out of the boots of some palm trees. They definitely don't need much soil to survive. I did notice, I don't know if some of the spots right here are just leftover peat from when I had originally, you know, kind of the peat type of potting soil or whatever, from either the purchase or from when I had it buried with the rock, or if it might be some pieces from a root that kind of died off there. I'll try to clean that up just a little bit more. All in all though, you know, for the expensive that I got in there, and this is just a rock I found in my yard in a little $5 pot. I think this is like $3 or $4 at Walmart or something the tree was. I think it's looking pretty good.